Welcome back to Soul Sister Speaks. My name is Jemai. I'm your host, and I have the privilege and the honor, yes, both of them, to be joined here with my lovely, incredible, and amazing friend, Blessing. Blessing, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, my name is Blessing Duku. I am from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
I am a fourth year at the University of Texas. So yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about your upbringing?
My upbringing. So I was born in Nigeria. I only stayed there for like a year because I guess when I was born, that's why they gave me Blessing. We won the Visa lottery to come to America. And so I've been here, if I'm turning 22, 21 years. Two-parent household for the most part. They're split up now.
So you grew up in a two-parent household, you said, right?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It was hectic. My parents weren't, well, when I was growing up, I actually thought it was the normal. If I were to talk to other people, it was kind of just like, your parents don't X, Y, and Z. But then as I got older, my mom, she decided, enough was enough. They kind of separated. And I didn't think, for me, it was more so hard to watch the effect on both of them because it's not easy to watch my mother be alone. And then it's not easy to see my dad, he doesn't want to be alone, but I know that he needs to be alone. And so it's kind of hard to watch him go through that.
And so what effect do you think that had for you, maybe in just like either romantic or platonic relationships growing up?
I think for me, like the dynamic between my parents or just my mom?
Both, either one that you feel led to talk about.
I think for when it comes to the dynamic between my parents, because my dad wasn't necessarily there, like he was there but he wasn't there until like he just was not there. I didn't think it was a problem until I came to college and I was sitting at a club meeting and they were talking about forgiveness and the topic of fathers was like brought up and I was just like, why am I angry? Like, why is this striking a chord in me? Why am I getting angry? And I realized that I did have some type of anger or pent up aggression that I kind of was suppressing that I didn't know that was there, about maybe him not being there as much, or when they did get divorced, it was more so you're not thinking about your children whatsoever. You're just trying to take from my mom. And so it was kind of just like looking at my dad like, he was selfish, or like, what's wrong? Like, why don't you care about anybody but yourself? And once again, I love and respect him, but it was just, it just really made me angry. Yeah.
Following that meeting, did you begin to embark on the journey towards forgiving your father? And if you did, what did that look like?
So, yeah, I guess I started to view him a little differently. I don't remember what sermon it was, but it was just, I think it was talking about, regardless of if it's your parents or not, like, these are people, right? And the environment from which he was raised in, like, that's what, he is the outcome, right? And so to not so look at it like, oh, he's your father, but it's just like your father had a father and his father had a father. And when I look at my dad, his father wasn't there, right? And so it's kind of like he doesn't know, like he wasn't given that example on how to be a father or shown that type of fatherly love. So it's not it doesn't come natural to him to be that for the children that he has now. Like, I'm a person and he's a person too. And having to view him like separate from being my father, but just as a person, and showing him grace and showing him mercy. And especially with like, when I think about what God is to me or who Jesus like embodies to me, which is unconditional love. And love that has no barriers, no borders, no conditions, no stipulations. And so when I think about that, it's kind of just like, wow, I'm supposed to embody who Jesus is. I'm supposed to emulate his character, right? And this is who he's been to me. This is what makes God just so special to me, right? So I should do that for my father, right? I should look like Jesus to him. Maybe he's never seen unconditional love. Maybe, for him, it's like people are always walking out. I know it hurts him for his children to not talk to him as much, or to not try and see him, or to call. I know it hurts him. So it's just like maybe he feels like, oh, all the rest of, his children will walk out on me. And the only reason I'm his favorite, I've heard him say this, where it's just like, blessing loves me no matter what. And it pains me because it's just like, I want you to feel that from all of your children, right?
Yeah.
And so just being able to show him like, hey, I know you just did X, Y, and Z, but I'm still going to call on you because you are still worthy of love. You know what I mean?
Wow. So what are some of the ways that you are able to show him that you love him?
For me, it's the staying at his place, because we usually stay at my mom's place, but sometimes I go stay with my dad, or the calls when I do call them, like, hey, what are you doing? How are you? Or like when I just say, hey, you want to go out to eat, or like my birthday. I remember last year, I usually celebrate it with my family, and my family, once again, we kind of just separate my dad from things. I'm like, maybe me and you should go do something.
So I want to go back to a question that I asked previously about how you feel like some of the things that you experienced growing up might have impacted either your friendships or romantic relationships, if you don't mind talking about that.
Yeah, of course. I actually talked about this yesterday in Bible study, where because it was just a hostile environment, the way that I expressed myself when I was angry, I was taught when somebody disrespects you, or when you feel wronged, or if there's a specific, like there's some type of altercation going on with words, you pop off. That is how you express yourself. And I just thought maybe I just thought maybe that's just how I am. And then when I got older and I looked at my background and I looked at how my father dealt with problems, or how sometimes my mom dealt with problems, it was just like, it makes sense. Like, this is how I was taught as a child to respond to problems, to start fighting, to yell, to get the last word, to make that person feel powerless with my words. So yeah.
At what point in your life did it go from, okay, I've observed and seen where this comes from, and when did that transform into, I need to change this though?
I guess for me, so I guess when I went to alternative school, because I went twice, but I think it was the first time, and my mom told me to read Proverbs. Yeah, no, it was Psalms. She told me to read the book of Psalms. She just said, read through it. You have too much anger. You need to read through it. I'm just sitting there girl. But I read through it, and something about it kind of just I don't know. I didn't keep the verse because, mind you, this was the first time I went was 4th grade. And so it was just talking about how fools get angry, and rush to anger and stuff like that. It just kept saying all these different things. Or maybe it was Proverbs. I don't remember. But I just remember thinking about it and thinking about when you get angry and you're shouting like that, and it's you're trying to establish your domination or whatever, you really are the one who is powerless. You can't control your emotions. You cannot control your emotions, and so you're shouting, while the real power is being able to know that you could go there but not go there. And so that's kind of something that helped me. And then also just praying to God, God, help me to be more like you. And I think as I continue to pursue God, there was instances where I could get angry, but literally the Holy Spirit will remind me, you need to emulate me. You need to look like me. Therefore, I know you're about to go cuss that girl out, or I know you're about to go scream and do X, Y, and Z, but I want you to hold your tongue. I want you to walk away. And there have been times where, I still popped off, but not as much. Maybe, I think it was one time last year, and one time before that, comparatively before, where it was just every single time I felt disrespected, where I just popped off. And so I'm just wow, okay, God, thank you for helping me with this.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of God the Father, you know what I mean? I really want to talk about it because I have this theory that addressing God as Father can be a little bit triggering for those who maybe didn't have the best father experience growing up. Was that the case for you at all?
I feel there have been seasons of my life where God has shown me different aspects. I don't necessarily think that, I know he is a father, but I haven't come to that realization to see God as Father. There's been seasons where I've seen God as provider, I've seen God as counselor, and I've seen God as friend. There were specific seasons that I went through where it was just I looked up and realized, wow, you really sat there and provided for me when I literally had nothing. Money appeared out of thin air. You've been my provider, or you've been my friend. In seasons of isolation where I had absolutely nobody and it was just me and you, you've been my friend, right? And just that having that experience where it's just eye-opening to see God as something different than just like God, but no, like you're for real my friend, you're for real my provider, you're for real my counselor, where it's just having those intimate moments. I don't think I've necessarily, I guess, been in that experience yet, or maybe I have, but my eyes haven't been like availed to it to look at God and be like, wow, like no, you're for real my father too.
Yeah, I feel like there might be some more things on your heart that you might feel led to share, and so I just want to open up the space for you to do that.
Talking about the spirit of, no, the season of being like angry with God, and I feel like, not to say people make it seem like it's not okay, but they don't talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Where there are times where you are angry at God, and I know for me, it's like I was in that season and I'm slowly coming out of it, because it was like you're thinking, oh, like you know when God does something unexpected, you're just like, I gotta give it a day. Whereas for me, it's like, nah, like I was angry at God for months, like just like for real angry. When I thought about the situation, it brought me to tears, and I was like, God, I just can't. Like, if I'm gonna talk to you, like I'm gonna thank you, for getting up and this and third, but I just can't talk to you about that because it still angers me. And I think for me, I was looking at a podcast, and it was, I think, Woman Evolve with Sarah Jakes.
God bless that woman.
I love her. Therapy for the soul. And so, literally, one of the podcasts, one of the girls asked a question, because they asked like a guidance question at the end, and she was talking about how, in order to get that relationship with God that you had before, you need to go back to the place where it was broken, right? And like, it was really painful, and it's still kind of painful to talk about, because it's just like, God, I feel like I needed you to come through for me, and in my eyes, you didn't do what I thought you were going to do exactly how I thought you were going to do it. It's not that God didn't come through, it's just that, God, like, I've been so expectant, I've been praying, I've been asking, I've been fasting, and it's like, man, like, how can you give me a word? And for me, it's like, did I get the word wrong? Or having a heart that is so like, okay, if you change your mind or you want to do something like different, I'll accept that, but you just got to tell me, because I can't be out here looking stupid and feeling like God left me out there looking stupid and just being confused and like, but God, this is what you said. Like, it was so clear. Like, why aren't you coming through? And just being so hurt by, once again, knowing that God can do it, but God not doing it. Because for me, it's just like, God, you see how much this hurts me. You see how heavy it is on my heart, but you're not coming through. Don't you care about my feelings? Don't you care about my tears? Don't you care about what I think? Like, why is this not being added to the equation? I thank God for Haven Worship, where you're consistently surrounded by people who are praying for you and people who are talking about God, and God is using those same people to talk to you, and you're constantly being reminded that you need to return back to the one who loved you first. And so when I finally decided to go back into that territory of, okay, God, this is where I was hurt the most, and this is where I need healing from, and just being honest with God about my feelings, about how I'm feeling, like, God, like, you really hurt me. Like, I'm really hurt by this situation. I'm not understanding why you would allow this to happen. Like, I'm just hurt.
I think you're a perfect person to even expand on just the importance of not staying away from God, because unfortunately not everyone is surrounded by community or people that are praying for them that can draw them back. So is there anything you could say to someone who maybe had this anger towards God? God, you gave me a promise, you spoke this over my life, I'm either not seeing it or it's literally just not happening, and I'm upset, and they stayed away from God. What would you say to encourage them to draw them back into his presence?
Continue to pray. And I know, like, it sounds really simplistic, but it's just like, even before, like, because this was during the summer, right? So Haven Worship hadn't even started, right? I still felt God saying, you need to come back to me, right? And it was because I still left some type of connection. Like, don't sever the connection. And so with that, just kind of keeping that line of communication where God was able to deposit little seeds of come back to me, of I know that you're hurting, or you need to forgive, or you cannot stay in this place. Like, that is kind of what helped me to get to the place of hope.
Mm.
Yeah.
And did you have any fear that perhaps if you came before God with full honesty, that maybe he would cast you out of his presence, or he would stop loving you, or?
Kind of. It was kind of like two different things. So basically, because I was like not wanting to be in God's presence and kind of just wanting to just do my own thing, it was more so these things that I'm running to, whether it be lust, whether it be the gym, whether it be food or Netflix, all these different things, it was kind of reminding me like, it was kind of like, okay, now I'm mad at you, but I done added this to the plate, right? So now I feel like I can't get before you. And that was kind of what was keeping the relationship strained. And even in the season where it was just like, I'm turning my face away from God, God was still loving and still caring. And the thing is, it's still like, it would blow my mind. At this point, I'm not doing anything to earn your love like I was before, but you're still blessing me. You're still loving me. You're still speaking to me and telling me that you love me and you want me to return, and I'm not doing anything. And I think that revelation kind of just like sat with me. It was like, wow, okay, maybe I do work from a place of trying to earn God's love and not being reminded that I'm saved by grace through faith. And I always stop at by grace through faith, because a lot of times we just say it, but we don't think about it. Like, I am saved by God's grace, not by my own doing, through my belief that Jesus died for my sins. I'm saved by grace through faith. And so the other thing was, okay, I've been known to be this girl who loves God so much, who, you know, just adores him, and all of a sudden I'm going through a season where, you know, like, I'm not really loving God like that. God has really hurt me, and I'm turning my face away from him, and all of a sudden I don't feel like I'm that girl anymore who loves God. And it made me shameful to want to express that with others. I felt like I was gonna be judged because, like, oh, obviously you weren't really saved, or you didn't really love God, because obviously if you've been walking with God long enough, like something like this, like you wouldn't have like been angry at God for so many months and turned your face, stuff like that.
I kind of want to go into that subject of the revelation of God's love. Like, wow, even when I'm not showing the fruit of being in his presence, he continues to love me. Although the circumstance was not joyous or delightful, what was it like for you to understand that really nothing can separate me from his love?
I guess for me, it was kind of very emotional when God sits there and he shows you unconditional love. Unconditional love that's not based off of, yeah, I did this that other day and it might have offended you, God. Next thing you know, you're turning your face away from me. Like, no, you still want to be in my presence. You still call me loved. You still accept me. You still would ask somebody to bring me on a podcast and talk about you. You still trust me enough to speak about you, even though I went through this season with you. And it just makes me think like, wow, God, like, you really love me. You don't define me by what I do or sometimes how I act. Like, you really love me. Like, you don't want to depart from me. There's nothing that I can do that would separate me from you. Literally nothing. And once again, as you said, like, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to go through it, where it's like, dang, like, I really have at this point done nothing for you to love me, but you consistently reach out to me. Like, during this season where it was like, I truly felt like, dang, like, I'm trying to hide from God, but God just keeps pulling. Like, I literally felt like, no matter what, like, he will literally leave the 99. It became real for me. Like, it's just like, there are so many other people doing so many amazing things for the kingdom. Why do you keep trying to pull me back into it? And God's just like, no, like, I love you. Like, this love is not defined by what you do and what you don't do. Like, you're just loved. It's consistent in and out of season. That's just it.
I really want to just sit with that, because that's even, like, I needed to hear that word. I really, really, really needed to hear that word, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think something so beautiful about opening up and sharing these experiences, because like you said, I don't hear people who are so straightforward about seasons that they've had with God where they were angry, where they deliberately turned their backs like, God, I'm over here. But the beauty about it is that you really get to have an understanding that, listen, this is what this person went through, and God never stopped pursuing her. I think it's so easy to, whether it's conscious or subconscious, still try to work for God's love.
Yeah.
Like, you still try to work from, I'm going to do this for the kingdom, and I'm going to go give to this person, and I'm going to pray like this, and I'm going to read this, and I'm going to show God that I'm deserving of being in his presence and deserving of his love. But the funny thing is that even while doing those things, we're still not deserving of his love. The type of love that God gives, we are never going to be deserving of it. But to see you having gone through that period of time where it's like, okay, I really know, like, it's not even I'm a bad person, I'm just not doing anything to get it. But he's still tirelessly making sure that you know that you're loved. He never stopped loving you, and I think that's such a beautiful thing. You hit so many incredible points throughout this entire episode, and so I just want to thank you so much, Blessing. I truly do honor you for your transparency. One thing that you've always been is transparent. One thing you've always done is kept it real, and so I thank you so much for that. And I just know that I was already blessed by this episode, and I know that so many other people will be blessed by your vulnerability as well. And so I want to say thank you so much. And so if there's just one thing that you could say to everyone who's listening, what would you say?
Find out who God is to you, make it personal, and then talk to God in that angle. Make the love like personal to you. If you feel that maybe the most special thing that you want is a friend, or the most special thing that you want is a father, the most special thing that you need is a provider, start to look at God and that angle and see how he blows your mind. And I feel like it makes the love real, because a lot of times we just say that, oh, we love God, but it's just like, no, I love God because this is who he is to me. And I know for me, it was unconditional love. And that is something that I will always be thankful to God for showing me, because that's something that I desperately, earnestly always want, right? And so for you, whatever that is, like, apply that to God and see him move in that and make the love personal, because that will always keep you grounded. Whether you leave or not, that will always keep you grounded, that God has always shown you that you didn't deserve, you will come back. You know what I mean? You just can't deny it. But yeah.
Amen. Thank you so much, Blessing. I love you so much. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. Again, my name is Jemai. We just got blessed by the one and only Blessing. I'll see y'all next week, and bye.
Tell about the healer. Greater is the one within and call him as the leader. Teach her how to hold a pretty hand up to the sky. Never wait upon the giver, he'll deliver like a dealer. Take her